Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing well. This video is going to dive a little bit deeper into the not only Bitcoin network, but really where is Bitcoin flowing, particularly when it comes from one generation to the next. We're noticing that the younger generations are buying more Bitcoin than gold. We touched on it a little bit in last week's video, but let's dive a little bit deeper in terms of what's going on with the wealth transfer, what that means for these younger generations, and what that could mean potentially for Bitcoin and the future of the network. So you can see here, we go back to River's adoption report of 2026, year 5. Speaking of 2025, in which the network had $1 trillion plus of value being transferred, basically any trades being made on the Bitcoin network, and how much those trades have been valued at over an entire year has been over $1 trillion plus for 5+ years. And you can see it's been going strong consecutively for many years in a row. And so most likely we would expect that 2026 is not going to be any different, and could we potentially see it back above that $3 trillion, $4 trillion range? That's a possibility. Obviously, this has been a bear market in 2026. 2021 was a bull market, and then we went into the bear market of 2022. So a lot of Bitcoin was changed hands back and forth, and we're also noticing and seeing that a lot of the institutions that are coming into the space, as we also mentioned in last week's video, that's coming from the individuals who are selling now during the bear market, selling to these institutions and other entities that are buying into the Bitcoin network. So just be aware, particularly as a retail investor, if you are interested in Bitcoin or are holding Bitcoin and considering selling Bitcoin, just make sure you have a general understanding of kind of what's happening with the network, as well as the trajectory of Bitcoin and what it looks like for the long term if you're a long-term investor. So if we look at Bitcoin, and we went over this slide before, Bitcoin is now about 1.2% of all of global money. So when you look at it in comparison to gold, it still has a long ways to go to get to gold's market cap, but you can see that it's still really just a teeny fraction when you look at all of the money, the global money that is out there, when it includes commodities like gold as well as fiat currencies. So I want to take a look at a great post from, shout out to Mark Moss. He showed this post regarding the total assets continue to grow, and part of it has to do with inflation. And when we see here in 2010, total global assets were around $300 trillion. By 2020, it was $700 trillion. And now we have projections that the global assets will soon hit around 1.6 quadrillion dollars. That's 1,600 trillion. So that's 1.6 quadrillion. We're now getting into quadrillions by 2030. And if Bitcoin were to keep even just what it is now, which is 1.2% of global money, if this projection is correct, and that the global assets are going to be around $1.6 trillion, then that means that Bitcoin would then be around $1 million. Meaning that it is approximately 20 or so trillion, and 20 or so trillion of 1.6 trillion is around 1.2, 1.3% of that total pie. So we are seeing that since the early 2000s, the percentage in global GDP continues to go up, and we're seeing that inflation continues to go up. We had CPI numbers that came out over the past week. We're still in the 3% plus range. A lot of it has to do with geopolitics as well. It has come down a little bit from what it was in May. We just got the June numbers last week, but we still are noticing and seeing that inflation continues to go up no matter what. Even if it's 2% per year, you're losing value if you're keeping your money in a savings account. So that's why we really are trying to learn as much as we can about the best investable assets, and the assets in which are going to beat inflation, which, as we know, at least right now and as of May and June of 2026, was 3 and 4%. So another talking point that's coming out of the global financial landscape, especially when it comes to the United States, is the so-called unprecedented transfer of wealth that's going to be happening between baby boomers going down to millennials and then to Gen Z. And they're saying that, and I've seen numbers, that's why you have to really do your research and discern kind of what could be correct and what's not, and what's hyperbole and whatnot. But at the end of the day, there is a large amount of wealth that's going to be transferred from the baby boomers going down to some of the lower generations. And so I've seen numbers from anywhere around 100 trillion to 150 trillion. So I don't know the exact number, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of money. Now, some of that's going to, of course, go to donations. It's going to go to taxes and other various liabilities. But a large chunk of that, at least 40 to 50% of it, is going to actually be transferred down to the younger generations. As you can see here, there's a report that estimates that less than 40% of a $93 trillion pot, which would be about 36 trillion, will ultimately be passed on to younger generations. So that's roughly around 515,000 per inheriting household. Now, once again, this first excludes the wealthiest 1% of households, but also, as we know, not everyone will be getting this type of inheritance. As I mentioned earlier, are trying to find ways not only to combat inflation, but ways in which we can make our money compounding, because compounding is many say the eighth wonder of the world. And if we use it to our advantage, then we do have an opportunity to potentially not only do something for our family here and now, but then also for our families coming up behind us. So just something to consider when it comes to what's kind of happening. So we know that there's a lot of money that's going to be transferred to the younger generations. And we also know that, and this is another thing I have to take with a grain of salt, because I've seen different numbers here as well when it comes to crypto ownership by generations. But at the end of the day, what they all have shown is that the younger generations own more crypto, own more Bitcoin than the older generation. So if we're seeing this transfer, this huge transfer of wealth that's going from these baby boomers down to Gen X and Gen Z, then and also millennials, then there's a possibility that Bitcoin will continue to go up in value as more and more demand comes into the space. So obviously we know about the demand that's coming from institutions as well as sovereign nations that are holding it and mining it in some cases, and sovereign wealth funds and the like. We are still seeing that despite the bear market and despite the volatility and the ups and downs that it's gone through over its 17-year history, is that we're still seeing that Bitcoin continues to grow over time. The floor continues to rise over time as well. So that's something that we always want to make sure that we keep in mind when it comes to what's happening with the Bitcoin network. And just lastly, one of the brokerage firms that really has been focusing in on the younger generations, particularly the millennials, Gen Z, and now Gen A, is Robinhood. And we've talked about their new blockchain that is built on top of Ethereum and using Arbitrum as their base layer, which is a layer 2 Ethereum blockchain. They have built Robinhood chain, and since it has been available for use, you can see that it pulled in 135 million of value since July 1, and this is only in the first less than 2 weeks that it has had a lot of traction. And so far, even though Robinhood had announced that it plans on using the chain, particularly for stock equivalents, being able to be traded on the blockchain 24/7, not available to U.S. members currently or citizens currently, but for those outside of the country who don't have access to the U.S. equities market, which is the largest equities market in the world, they have opportunities to be able to trade a Tesla or an Apple or any of the Mag 7 and many other equities being represented by these tokens on the blockchain. And so Robinhood chain is going to be used for that. But at least right now, it's doing very well for meme coins. So one of the most popular ones recently, since it's been in use, is Cash Cat, and there's been several others, and you can see in comparison to some of the other largest smart contract platforms like Solana and Ethereum, You can see Robinhood Chain has done very comparable in DEX volume over a 24-hour period. You can see it's ranked third when it comes to 24-hour period, and is also done well over the past week. And obviously, we still haven't gone through a full 30-day cycle for Robinhood Chain. So we're just seeing that young people, particularly Gen Z and even a little bit of Gen A, but really just Gen Z, because Gen A is still a little bit too young at this point. But we know that they are into trading, they're into meme coins, they're into Bitcoin. So it just goes to show that this network is continuing to grow. The value that's being transferred is continuing to grow. So we'll keep you posted on what's happening there. Of course, we look forward to linking up with you here on the network chain. Make sure to keep us posted on what you have going on and anything that you would like us to go over. We really appreciate you watching. We hope you have a great start to your week and hope you're enjoying your summer. Take care. Bye-bye.